Prince Harry is being sued.
How the Mighty Have Fallen, a charity that he co-founded in memory of his late mother, Diana. What would she make of Harry 2026? Diana would be saddened. She'd be angry. She'd be ashamed. You set up a charity in her name and then it becomes a public relations dumpster fire. If Harry loses his case against the Daily Mail, it's going to cost Harry millions. Bankruptcy beckons. There isn't even a shadow of a doubt that if he loses these two court cases, it accelerates his collapse into bankruptcy. The couple don't have a serious income. So this is like breaking news on the Daily Expresso. This is massive.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Expresso. I'm JJ Anisiobi and this is Mark Dolan. How you doing, mate?
Great to see you, JJ.
I can barely see you. I'm not wearing my glasses. I've forgotten them.
This is good news because we get to see your handsome face.
Said no one ever. Thank you. You're
Right.
too kind.
And I'm wearing the specs, so I can be the brains of the outfit, right? You're the eye candy. Because we know, don't we? A lot of people, I'm very honoured to say, are tuning into the Daily Expresso. And they tune in for my truth bombs and they tune in for the eye candy over there, right? And the handsome devil. There are ladies of a certain age just drinking tea and staring at you. But we do have some news, don't we?
We do have some news. Prince Harry is being sued.
Massive.
Who would have thunk it? The prince who sues everyone else is now being sued for defamation. But the real bombshell for me is who it is that's suing him. His own former charity that he set up in Diana's name, Sentebale. Am I saying that correctly? Sentebale?
You are, Sentebale. How the Mighty Have Fallen, a charity that he co-founded in memory of his late mother, Diana. What would she make of Harry 2026? Diana would be saddened. She'd be angry. She'd be ashamed because she'd look at her son and she'd think, right, well, you've fallen out with, you know, your brother.
Yeah.
And let's be honest. I mean, who are you going to blame in the fallout of that relationship? It's not William's fault, is it? What's William done?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you set up a charity in her name and then it becomes a public relations dumpster fire and a hot mess. In fact, it's terrible for the memory of Diana that Sentebale is just so chaotic and so riven with politics and drama. And whose fault it is? It is Harry. And as you've said, he finally gets a taste of his own medicine and someone sues him.
So why exactly are Sentebale suing Prince Harry?
They believe that they can't fundraise and they cannot do the important work that they do in Lesotho, which is to help young people impacted by HIV, because of his actions whilst one of the faces of the charity. They argue that remarks he's made about the leadership, about the board, about Dr. Sophie Chandauka, who is now running the charity, have made it so difficult for them to raise money, to get sponsorship, and to do their great work. And they're angry about that. Now, I will say that this is a shocking development for Harry, because for Sentebale to act demonstrates that they have the financial resources to bring this case. And be clear, JJ, this is not coming from donations. So the work of Sentebale will continue. There is a backer. There is somebody that is supporting this legal action against Harry that is most likely sick and tired of his hypocrisy and double standards and are horrified by his allegedly toxic stint when he was part of Sentebale. So someone there's either a consortium or a rich individual that's backing Dr. Sophie. It's not donations. And similarly, you don't go to the High Court, you don't pursue a libel action against a figure like Harry unless you have evidence. Yeah. So there's every chance that he will lose this case. And that opens a whole can of worms financially and reputationally.
So how damaging is this for Harry? Because his whole shtick really is philanthropy, doing good, being a virtuous person and helping everyone else. And yet what we've got now is a charity who are saying, well, actually, you're not good and you're actually stopping people from donating to us with your own influence.
Well, that's right. And then there's a personal element to this, and it's Dr. Sophie Chandauka, who's a heroic figure. This is actually someone that's stood up to Harry. He's not used to that. Because although he presents himself as this fluffy, lovely, be kind character, I believe that he's quite a bully. And I think that the allegations around how he behaved when he was part of Sentebale and the alleged treatment of Dr. Sophie is scandalous and reflects very badly on him. And all of that is going to be aired in public now. with this court case. Harry's going to be in the dock, the son of the King of the United Kingdom, being held to account by lawyers and being overseen by a judge. And what we're going to hear is the reopening of the original row between Harry and Dr. Sophie. For example, allegations that at a polo fundraising event, Dr. Sophie Chandauka was told to shift to one side on the stage to make space for Meghan and Serena Williams, right? With a clear message, which is get out of the way. Meghan needs her photo opportunity. Another allegation is that after that, and can you imagine how humiliating that would have been for Dr. Sophie, who is the head of the charity, a very, very bright, highly educated, accomplished person. She's elite level. She's a rock star. You know, she's an extremely bright person. So she has to, you know, play second fiddle allegedly to Meghan for this photo op. It's then been reported that after that incident and the fallout and the public outrage, that Harry has messaged Chandauka and said, "Can you release a statement saying this isn't true? And can you release a statement that's very supportive of Meghan?"
Wow.
At which point, Dr. Sophie said, "Sorry, Harry, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to play your PR games."
Yeah.
So there is serious beef between the two of them. A long history of drama, of recrimination. Let's also not forget that Dr. Sophie feels that she wasn't just bullied by the powers that be at Sentebale, including Harry. She alleges sexism and misogynoir, which, as you all know, is quite the most egregious claim, which is to be basically be abused because of your gender and your
skin color.
But
it's a racism, essentially.
It's unbelievable. And now, let's be clear that Harry denies these allegations, but the Charity Commission looked into this 6 months ago, and they admonished Harry. And they said, actually, you are to blame for making this row within Sentebale public. But isn't that what Harry does? This is not a guy that will dispute things with you in private. He likes to go to court, and he likes to write books about it and do TV shows and documentaries. So it's a disaster, and it's going to be unedifying. This is, as you mentioned before we came on air, 2 court cases now.
Yeah.
Harry is suing the owners of the Daily Mail, and he's being sued by Dr. Sophie. If he loses both, well, the reputational damage will be unlimited. And as you mentioned, his philanthropy and him being this lovely guy and a global leader, well, that's all he's got because he hasn't got a job.
Yeah.
There are no deals with any businesses. No one invests in Harry because everything he touches turns to mud. So all he's got is philanthropy. And it looks like if he loses the case against Sentebale, well, that's gone as well. Invictus is not going swimmingly because many of the injured ex-service men and women are fed up with the Sussexes because they feel that the focus is on them, not on the folk that fought in wars and lost limbs and then gone on to become heroes again, competing at the top level of sport. You know, suddenly, I mean, Sentebale is the same thing. You know, we're not talking about HIV and the legacy of poverty and health problems among poor communities in Africa. We should be talking about that. The other factor, JJ, is money. Holy moly. If Harry loses his case against the Daily Mail, which is a fight he should never have started, and they are confident they're going to win. And if he loses the libel action against Sentebale, it's going to cost Harry millions. Bankruptcy beckons. Be clear that those two, Harry and Meghan, have got cash in the bank. Yes, they do. Right? None of it earned through good enterprise and hard work and talent. Most of their cash is money from the late Queen Mother and from the aforementioned Diana. And most of it is cash from the Netflix deal, which leveraged their royal connections and the book Spare. That's how they made their money. But that cash pile is dwindling fast. Their outgoings are huge. The mortgage is $500,000 a year. That is just the start of it.
Jeez.
You've got the transport costs, private education for the kids.
Security.
Security is huge. The staff, the public relations team. But if he starts losing court cases, he's on the hook for $10, $15 million. That's money that Harry hasn't got. Now, they won't fold overnight, but they cease to be financially viable. I mean, in a decade's time, there's no cash. They're broke. The cupboard is bare.
So you really think Harry could go bankrupt if he loses both these cases?
There isn't even a shadow of a doubt that if he loses these 2 court cases, it accelerates his collapse into bankruptcy. And it's not a case of if but when. the truth is that even if he were to prevail in both cases, then it doesn't change the fundamentals, which is the couple don't have a serious income. Mm-hmm. They're off to Australia this week.
Yeah. And
laughably, their head of PR has said that this is a philanthropic trip again, that they're worried about communities in Australia. I mean, they're in a allegedly 16 bathroom mansion in Montecito, right? Which is quite good because they produce so much BS. They've got to flush it down somewhere. So much effluent. You need 16 bathrooms. My husband, I call him H. So what's very interesting is that they're off to Australia, and that is essentially that is to make headlines, it's to become relevant, to re-galvanise their royal credentials. It's a fake royal trip, but it's also
to make some cash.
It's to cashola.
Yeah,
So, but even that, I mean, it doesn't seem to be going very well because Meghan's charging $2,000 for the great privilege of eating in her company, which I think is a recipe for indigestion and acid reflux. Okay. It's all coming back. I mean, that avocado toast is coming back up, and then Harry, whose rate as a public speaker has gone from $1 million post-Megxit to $50K in Australia, which is a chunk of change for you and I.
Yeah.
Won't even touch the sides for Harry. So the fundamentals of their, I think that the money problems are inevitable and guaranteed, but these two court cases will accelerate their financial collapse.
Now, you've said previously that you don't think Meghan's going to stay with Harry, and that even that Meghan is looking for her next rich man to marry. If Harry has no cash, and then William comes onto the throne and takes away the titles as well, he's just a good-looking ginger man with two lovely kids, and maybe Meghan's going to be, according to what you've suggested previously, Meghan's going to be getting her cash from somewhere else.
Thank you for a brand new sentence for the human race, which is good-looking ginger man.
Our producer, James Walker, is ginger and a man. He stood behind the camera now doing this. It's like, that's me. No, it's not.
Let me correct you, because I've seen James naked, and let me assure you, he's a strawberry blonde. There's quite a difference. Don't use the G word. But honestly, it's gloomy. And sometimes when we're on this show, right, I try to break out of that echo chamber, and you help me to do that. And you often, defend the marriage. And I think it's important that we do that, because, it's like everything in life now. It's either you're, team A or team B, sort of Harry and Meghan or William and Catherine. If I tried to be positive about the couple, it's like, what is there for them to look forward to? What is the good news story? And I cannot find one. If you look at the Australia trip, the Australians are furious, by the way. There's a petition of 50,000 people.
Yeah.
Who don't want them to come. There's a row about the security. Have you heard about this?
Yes, but tell our viewers and listeners.
OMG. So it's going to cost the Australian taxpayers a fortune to help with their security. Now, the Sussex public relations machine, which never sleeps, has been telling everyone and anyone that the Australian taxpayer will not pay for the security. It's not true. New South Wales Police and Victoria Police down under have said that there will be extra resources to keep order. And, of course, the Australians will pay for that. So it's not a good look. And they're going to Australia because it's just another territory that they haven't destroyed yet.
Yeah.
Then persona non grata in the United States. The Hollywood elite have turned their back on Harry and Meghan. Oprah, where's she? Absent without leave. The Clooneys, the Obamas, Gwyneth Paltrow. You look at her TV show, We'd Love Meghan. Can you name one celebrity that was on there? No. The only person of any note that was on there was a woman called Chrissy Teigen. Are you familiar with her work?
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, gross.
She's not exactly sort of...
Chris Teigen's made some very disgusting comments in the past on social media about being attracted to babies.
Correct.
Yeah.
And what she is a notorious internet troll.
Yes.
And that was the best that Meghan could do. So what they've done is they've burned their bridges in the US. And so they're going to try and just start again, start over in Australia. And I don't think, can you think of any positives? So in the next year or two, is there anything for the couple to look forward to, Harry and Meghan?
Well, I guess maybe the kids' high school prom. That could be pretty cool.
I mean, that's exactly it. Harry's going to drop little Archie off to the prom and hope that
take a picture of him from behind. And,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think Archie's main focus when he goes to the prom is just don't mention who your parents are, basically. Just pretend you're this regular American kid. It's like, oh, my dad drives a taxi.
Isn't it ironic that Harry and Meghan left the royal family, stepped away from royal duties, and then there were some claims about the royal family being racist, and now Harry's being sued by his own charity, accusing him of racism.
You couldn't make it up, could you? And of course, we will be clear that Harry denies all the allegations and their team will be confident of victory. Victoria Arbiter, you familiar with her work?
Yeah.
Right, great royal journalist.
Dickie Arbiter's daughter.
Dickie Arbiter's daughter. Now, who was Dickie Arbiter? The Queen's former head of press, Queen Elizabeth. So she knows her onions and she's been posting on X saying that this legal action, right, when you sue someone in the UK for libel, it is extraordinarily risky. It's painful. It's lengthy. It is costly. The costs are eye-watering. Most people never do it.
Yeah.
You have to have very, very deep pockets. And Sentebale is suing Harry. So her suggestion, her claim on her X post is that Sentebale wouldn't be doing this unless they had clear evidence of Harry's abusive, bullying, and potentially racist behavior and sexist. They wouldn't be pursuing this case, risking money, if they didn't have evidence and if they didn't think they can win.
Yeah.
And we've talked about the money, but as you implied earlier, what if he loses that libel action, at which point we're allowed on the Daily Expresso to call Harry sexist, racist, and a bully? Now, he denies that's the case at the moment. We're very clear about that.
Yeah.
But what if the High Court declares that that's exactly what he is? Where do you go from there?
There's nowhere for him to go. There's nowhere for him to
I
go.
mean, at that point, Meghan is like almost like the nice one of the partnership.
Yeah.
Meghan's like, not me, I'm lovely. I've got my flower sprinkles and a lavender towels which go in the refrigerator, which is a fire hazard. You're welcome.
This is the same Harry, by the way, that wore a Nazi costume to one party at some point when he was younger.
Oh my God.
Also, after he served in the army, he referred to one of his Asian brothers in arms as the P word. Now, I'm not saying Harry's a racist. I'm just saying those are two examples of him doing things that were untoward in the past. Anyway.
They are, you're right. They are. I mean,
What do I know?
that's the kind of thing that will be nestling inside the mind of the judge when he or she make their verdict.
Yeah.
Look at the back catalogue of
Yeah.
Harry hits. Yeah. So anyway, it's going to be amazing, and we're going to obviously have full coverage on this show. We're going to be like break it all down.
As were you on your TalkTV breakfast show.
I'll try.
Absolutely. Let's move on to Starmer not joining Trump. So Trump is doing a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. And Starmer's saying, no, we're not going to send British troops. We're not going to send British ships. We're not going to do anything.
So Keir Starmer, the broken clock that isn't even right twice a day. And you know what's really shocking, JJ, is that he thinks he's played a blinder with Iran, right? He's actually on his victory lap, which has echoes of Prince Andrew, then now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, after the Newsnight interview, going, that went well, didn't it? That's exactly where we're at, because it's going to be judged very harshly by history, okay? Starmer's position on Iran is going to age worse than Sharon Osbourne on a sunbed, okay?
Oh, she's a friend of mine, Mark. How very dare you.
Just burned my bridges with one of your close Hollywood pals. She's a great lady. We love Sharon. She looks fantastic. Starmer doesn't. Starmer's a rabbit in the headlights. And can I just say that the guy is so devious. He's so pathologically dishonest. It's my understanding that he wanted to allow the US originally at the start of the war to use UK air bases to refuel. So this is like breaking news on the Daily Expresso. This is massive, right? My number 10 insider says, oh, no. Starmer was happy for the Donald to use those bases because we know that Starmer is forever the lawyer. And to allow planes to refuel is hardly boots on the ground. Legally, you're not exactly proactively, you're not bombing Iran with that. So it's my understanding, and we need to really get this out there, that Starmer did want to allow those bases to be used and that he was stopped from doing so by his cabinet, by the likes of Ed Miliband and the Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper. Because, of course, they were mindful of the Iraq war, which was a mistake. And, of course, the then Labour Prime Minister, Tony Blair, was all in. But can we please have a little bit more sort of intellectual prowess from our leaders? Can we not just assume that what's happening in Iran is the same as what happened in Iraq? It's not, okay? Two things can be true at the same time, which is Iraq, mistake, Iran, not a mistake. But that is how incredibly ham-fisted this administration are, that they don't seem to be able to process that the circumstances are incredibly different, which we'll come to. But the bottom line is that that is the bombshell, that Starmer was going to allow those bases, which, by the way, would have changed the whole flavour of geopolitics, international relations, and the special relationship.
Yeah.
So if Starmer bullied into not doing that, this is a guy, right, he's won an election only 18 months ago with a stonking majority. It's the first prime minister in history with a large majority in House of Commons behaving like he's the leader of the opposition, right? In office, not in power. Modest cuts to public spending thwarted by his backbenchers. Offering America support at the early stages of the war in Iran, thwarted by his cabinet. His efforts to give away the Chagos Islands, thwarted by Donald Trump, right? Starmer doesn't decide anything anymore. But what he does is that he is forced into certain positions and then pretends that that was his idea in the first place. So having not offered support to America at that early stage in the war, he suddenly decided it's not our war and he thinks it's a great flex. And it's going to age very badly because Iran, at the start of this war, had in the region of 1,000 pounds of nuclear materials that had been developed to 60% efficacy in the direction of a nuclear bomb. So the suggestion that they were days or weeks away from the bomb is provably true.
Okay.
And Nadeem Zahawi has been writing about it in today's Telegraph, that actually, if this war hadn't happened, it's quite unimaginable to think about all of our collective futures. And he's pointed out that whilst Iran has been weaponizing the Strait of Hormuz temporarily in the course of this war, if they had the bomb, if they had a nuclear weapon, they could weaponize Hormuz for the rest of time. And the whole of the Middle East would then have an arms race towards being a nuclear power, including Saudi Arabia. So, you know, Starmer thinks he's played a blinder. He hasn't. But he does this, right? Wants to help originally, then says that it was his idea not to. He did the same thing with scrapping the two-child benefit cap. Before the election, he said, we have to have that cap, we can't afford it. Now it's one of the few things that he reckons is good about his government. Well, you can't have it both ways.
But shouldn't we be praising Starmer a little bit? Because, you know, the special relationship is super important. Donald Trump's a big character. We're reliant on the US survey, yada, yada, yada. But Starmer's saying, no, I'm not going to fall under Trump's charm. I'm not going to fall under pressure. We're not going to be involved. End of story. That's, for once, he's showing backbone. We may not agree with what he's done, but he's showing backbone for a change.
Well, what he's done is he's put a spin on his own powerlessness. And I think it's a suicidal mission politically, and I think it's bad news for the whole of the UK. When you are king, which of course Charles is king at the moment, if you think about Charles's job, what's his number one job? His number one job is to preserve the monarchy. So when he passes, the ongoing existence of the monarchy is his legacy. That's the main gig. You become king or queen. Hey guys, keep this thing going. And of course, that was the Queen's great legacy. When you're British Prime Minister, your main job is to preserve the special relationship with America. That's actually number one. And notwithstanding that he's killed the economy, 0% growth in January with the return of inflation and unemployment, open borders, 70,000 illegals since he became Prime Minister, net zero madness, highest energy bills in Europe, right? Set all of that aside, he has torched the special relationship with our number one political, military and economic ally. It's a catastrophe. And the biggest problem for Starmer is that when this war finally is concluded and there is a deal, and the legacy is a permanently weakened Iran that can't make nuclear weapons, what's Starmer going to say then? So I do agree. Look, the thing about the Iran war is that there are lots of people, including those on the right, who aren't happy about it and think it's madness. J.D. Vance, no less, the vice president, his heart's not in it. He's part of that MAGA base who said no foreign wars. And I get it. But going back to a conversation we had a few weeks ago, JJ, I've got two things about politicians. I look at their incentives and I look at the path of least resistance. So Donald Trump, he's not incentivized by this war. He's got nothing to gain. Gas prices have gone up in the US. Inflation's gone up. It's affected the economy. Congress have been asked for more money to pay for this war. And he wants the Nobel Peace Prize, which may not happen now.
It definitely ain't gonna happen now.
I doubt. Right? So why is Donald Trump doing this when it hurts him politically?
Yeah.
The only conclusion I can come to is that he thinks it's the right thing to do. Because I can't find, if he was making billions or it earned him votes, I get it.
Yeah.
That's no upside for Trump. So it must be the right thing to do. And then the second aspect is path of least resistance. Not attacking Iran is the easier option, is it not? Can we all agree that if in February nothing had happened, status quo, well, then things would be better in America, the economy would do better, that we wouldn't have the Strait of Hormuz, everything would be better. It's the path of least resistance. But in life, do you want your leaders taking the easy option? Trump has to, it's harder to invade Iran.
Yeah.
And that's what US and Israel have done.
Well, let's stick with Starmer.
Do we have to?
I'm afraid we have to. I'm afraid so. It just seems to be getting worse for him. Depending on how you view this, the UK could adopt EU single market rules under new legislation. So people, of course, are now saying
Here we go.
Starmer's trying to drag us back to the EU, whether we like it or not. Now, Labour are saying it will lower costs for businesses. It will get rid of all the Brexit paperwork. It's going to make things cheaper for us in the long run. So I'd say, okay, that's good then, isn't it?
It's not good because it's the thwarting of the will of the people who chose to get out and not live under the rules of the EU, which is a dying economic bloc that has open borders and has paid the price for an insane net zero experiment. I will take no lectures from the EU. So in 1990, the EU and America were about the same size. 2026, America is almost twice as big, right? The civilizational collapse in Europe, you've got such public anger in Spain, France, Italy, and this weekend, Ireland, over not just the cost of energy, but open borders as well, uncontrolled immigration. I don't know anyone that's against immigration. All the public want is controlled, sensible immigration where we decide who comes and could they please be offering something to the country. Call me old-fashioned. So Starmer decides, with the UK struggling financially, hold my beer, I'm going to hitch my wagon to this undemocratic, monolithic cult that is Brussels, which is hated by its own populations. And the problem is also democratically, because great coverage in the Express today about this.
Thanks.
Starmer is, and you should take credit, by the way. What about the strawberry blonde? Is he involved?
He actually is involved a bit, yeah.
Yeah, of course, of course he is. Of course he is.
The ginger whinger, we call him.
So the big Jane. By the way, he's an occasional presenter of the show, so people can go back
and see him and judge for yourselves. Is he ginger? Is he strawberry blonde? We will never know. Comment below. Sorry, Mark.
So here's the bottom line. That this can be done. This EU surrender, where that Starmer's looking at trade deals with the EU.
Yeah.
And it's going to involve us taking lots of edicts from the bloc, which is what people voted to stop. And he's going to try to do it without parliamentary scrutiny. And there will not be a vote on it. Farage is raging. I've rarely seen him angrier about this. Well, why? Because he's the guy that fought for Brexit, arguably made it happen. And he sees this betrayal. And fine, if you want to reverse Brexit, let's talk about it and let's make that an election manifesto issue.
Yeah.
But don't do it during whilst you're in power, having not said you would do that in your manifesto. And by the way, I'm not even sure it's in the national interest, because if you take more rules from Brussels, that makes a trade deal with other countries harder. So if you've got EU rules around, veterinary practices or food standards, any of that stuff, good luck going to India and striking a trade deal with one of the biggest populations on earth. So what then happens is that you yield in the course of this parliament so fully to the EU project that a future administration has its hands tied, where it cannot get the Brexit benefits, because what they've done is gone back to Brussels via the back door. It won't be called Brexit, but it will be similar to single market, and it will be similar to a customs union. And here's the big thing: 20% of our economy is exports.
Yeah.
80% is services. So Starmer's little, reset, right? It's going to not help the economy one bit, arguably hinder it because it reduces us on the world stage.
Why does he continue to do things that I would say a large majority of people in this country don't agree with? Because all I see happening is he's just making his own party less and less popular. He is sealing the fate of this Labour government. No one with a right mind, I believe, is going to vote for Labour at any general election coming up.
Well, you're so right. And if they did good stuff, we would say it on the show, wouldn't we? And there have been times when I have struck a positive note about this administration. Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, right?
Great.
She's a very talented politician. And she had this great plan, which is the so-called Boris wave. So Farage is back in the paper today. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
And he's claiming that the Boris wave, that was around 2.5 million people that came to the UK from 2021 to 2025. That it'll cost the British taxpayer £20,000 a year indefinitely to keep these folk. And the reason why is because they're low-skilled workers. They bring family members who will require welfare and won't work themselves. We're not going to demonize those folk, okay? They're trying to have a better life. Good luck. You and I would do the same thing.
Absolutely.
But is it the job of Daily Expresso viewers to pay to accommodate this large cohort of people that will be a net dependent on the taxpayer for the rest of their lives? Especially when, if you've brought these people in to work in care homes and pick fruit and all the rest of it, what about the 10 million people of working age who live in this country, British people, who are not active in the economy? Maybe they could pick a grape or two. Call me old-fashioned.
Well, getting those people to work would be a miracle, I'd say, Mark. I think there's too many British people who don't want to do those kind of jobs, unfortunately, and they're going to get benefits and be able to stay at home and play PlayStation all day instead.
Bingo. And that is the problem. And I'm sure you've got plenty of, and let us know in the comments, but plenty of viewers to this show who will say, fine, but when the benefits disappear, I think they'll suddenly discover the work ethic. And that is not relation to people who are disabled, who can't work.
No.
That's why we pay our taxes. And it's what's also amazing, by the way, about British disabled people is how many do work anyway.
Yeah.
And then how many people who don't have physical issues who don't make it make sense. I mean, I remember years ago I was at this radio station and there was a guy who worked in building maintenance and he's on a ladder fixing a lighting thing. And every so often he presses this device, right, on his belt. And his name was Steve. I said, Steve, what's that on your belt? And he said, it sends electric shocks into my body. I said, well, why have you got that? And he said, well, I have chronic back pain. So if I press this machine, it's called a TENS machine. Pregnant women use it too. So this is a guy, so not to be blunt, but we call a spade on Daily Expresso, right?
Absolutely.
This is a guy that is electrocuting himself, right? Three times a minute because of chronic pain so that he can work. In my humble opinion, I look at Steve, Steve, you'd be entitled to put your feet up. Because I think you're a candidate for state support.
Yeah.
But he doesn't because he's decided, no, he'd rather get up and put a shift in. And I admire Steve.
Absolutely.
And there's other folk, nothing wrong with them whatsoever, including young people. I mean, this is the worst thing now. Youth unemployment's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Because then it's a habit for life of not working, isn't it?
It's absolutely. Marky Mark, I think that's what we've got time for today, kidder. Well done.
Isn't it? Time flies when you're having fun, isn't it?
Yeah, tempus fugit. Nice, tempus fugit.
Yeah, I'm glad you're not wearing your glasses. You can't see that I'm actually a little dishevelled today. I forgot the hairdryer. I've never seen a comb.
Our viewers have said that. Mark, why can't you push your hair, Mark?
See, I'm too busy gathering the truth bombs. There isn't time.
Listen, if you've enjoyed it, if you think we've earned it, we'd love you to like, share.
Don't ask them that.
And if you're listening on Spotify, give us a review. I don't know how it works. Is there a heart?
The reviews really help.
The reviews help. Press the heart button.
They really do.
And leave a review on Spotify. It's going to help us get more listeners on Spotify. But if you're on YouTube, where a lot of you are, then like, share, subscribe, comments. Oh, gosh, so many things. That's the Ginger Whinger there telling me to tell you to press the hype button. Press the hype button. It's very important, according to Ginger James. Marky Mark, thank you.
Thanks, JJ. See you soon.
See you soon. See you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.